Hey everybody, Mike Naso here with this evening update. It's about 11:30 p.m. Sunday night, watching Hurricane Lee, which is getting a little bit better organized. We are also watching Margot and some waves off Africa. Here's the water vapor imagery of the Atlantic, and we have a lot of features. First of all, Hurricane Lee is no longer being sheared. It's starting to fan out on its western side. That's very favorable for development, and it should intensify and get either close to or back up to a Category 4 hurricane. We have Margot, which looks much better organized. That is also no longer being sheared from the outflow of Hurricane Lee, and it should become a hurricane as it moves to the northwest and then eventually the north. This wave we've been watching is showing a little bit more life south of Margot, and the wave leaving Africa here looked a little more impressive yesterday, but it is still there, and there is a good likelihood that we are going to see development of another system in the Atlantic. Looking over the United States, we have troughiness, which is going to sweep off the eastern seaboard, help weaken the ridge of high pressure to the north of the hurricane, and turn it to the north, likely to the west of Bermuda. Bermuda, you're that red dot I just circled, and Cape Hatteras and New England here also on the map. So again, it's going to be a close call, and we cannot rule out a direct impact to New England or Nova Scotia at this point in time. Here's the latest on Hurricane Lee as of 11 p.m. Atlantic time. Lee was at 22.6 north, 62.6 west. Winds back up to 120 miles per hour, so it got all the way up to a Category 5 hurricane, then all the way down to a Category 2 hurricane. Now it's back up to a 3, so it's a major hurricane again, moving northwest very slowly at 8 miles per hour. And again, it should continue this slow motion as it kind of rounds the periphery of the ridge. The ridge orientation shifts, and so it's going to kind of slow down here and then eventually turn to the north and accelerate. And so by Thursday and Friday, it should be a Category 1 hurricane, much weaker, and accelerating to the north and hopefully the northeast. But we cannot rule out that it'll get a little bit closer to areas there, say near Cape Cod. The wind field has expanded. That's one reason why the winds haven't strengthened beyond Category 3. So you either deal with a tight, smaller, stronger hurricane, or a strong hurricane that might not be as strong but is more spread out. And that's going to increase not just the winds in areas that may see tropical storm force winds like Bermuda, possibly New England, Nova Scotia, but you could also have much higher swells propagating away from the hurricane. Here's the water vapor image of Hurricane Lee, and again, watch right here the core rebuilding, that thunderstorm activity rebuilding. The wind shear seems to have lessened. That's why you see it fanning out here on the western side. However, I did want to note there is some dry air here, which seems to have impeded the north side of the hurricane. So it's not ideal. It's nothing like it was when it was a Category 5 a couple of days ago. Nonetheless, it's still a very powerful major hurricane, and it looks like it will try and intensify a little more as it moves well to the northeast of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Now here's the European ensembles. Now this is as of 12Z, and what we're a little concerned about are a couple of models here which have it making landfall over Cape Cod or areas of Maine, a lot right over Nova Scotia. And the European is a good model. So we're carefully watching this because this is by, say, 6 days out, maybe 7 days out. So while we still have almost a week to watch it because it's going to move very slowly for at least 3 or 4 days, there could still be major direct impacts there. Now the GFS models, that's a little bit more concerning. Some of them want to hook it back into the coastline there, and that would be the landfall of a hurricane, possibly anywhere New Jersey all the way over to Maine, and to say nothing of all the impacts that the models show in Nova Scotia. Now what scared the bejeebers out of us today is this 12Z run of the GFS. Now watch this model. Here's Hurricane Lee down here, a very strong, dangerous hurricane, and that is today, okay, September 10th and 11th. Now watch what happens as I put this in motion. The hurricane takes its time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It gets swept up. By Friday, it's accelerating north. By Saturday, it's accelerating north. Watch this. It hooks to the left and gets very, very close to areas there of New England. And so this would cause tropical storm conditions in areas of New England and certainly in Nova Scotia, and that scared us. Now this is a a problem because after Lee disappears, here comes another strong hurricane much closer to the Turks, Caicos, and the Bahamas, and then that one takes a little track right up into the areas there of the mid-Atlantic. Boom. New Jersey, New York, by September 25th. So again, take it with a grain of salt, but that was the 12Z. The new 18Z models aren't much better. They take Hurricane Lee right on up to the north and then just decide to jog it right into Cape Cod there. And this would be next Sunday. So that's why we've been a little bit apprehensive saying that it's just going to turn north and northeast, because it might stay north for a while and there's some indication it might get kind of close. So that's why if you are in areas of Cape Cod or the Maine coastline or Nova Scotia for sure, keep a very close eye on Lee as it meanders here between Bermuda and the Bahamas over the next couple of days. The key messages from the National Hurricane Center: number one, dangerous surf, life-threatening rip currents, the northern Leeward Islands, the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, the Turks, Caicos, Bahamas, Bermuda, all throughout the week. When you have a major hurricane out there with the swells, you do not want to be caught in a rip current. Secondly, Lee could bring wind, rainfall, high surf to Bermuda, although it is too soon to determine the timing and level of the impacts. Obviously, Bermuda, you are in the cone, so by Thursday night, you could have impacts directly. And number three, it remains too soon to tell what level of impacts, if any, Lee may have along the U.S. East Coast and Atlantic Canada late in this week, especially since it's going to slow down. Nevertheless, dangerous surf and rip currents, the U.S. East Coast, stay out of the water. If you're in the water off the eastern seaboard, it could be pretty rough, as Lee is expected to grow in size. So it's not just going to be a powerful hurricane, it's going to be a large one. It reminds me a bit of Hurricane Edouard. Now, this is for those of you who may not have been born. In 1996, when I was a kid, we had a hurricane named Edouard, formed off Africa, and it took a long track right across the Atlantic, very much like Hurricane Lee. It became a Category 4, a very dangerous hurricane, but there were some models showing that it would go to Cape May, New Jersey as a major hurricane on Labor Day. And people considered evacuations. They passed on it. Mayor Giuliani of New York City told everybody to prepare. It looked like, remember, this was 1996. That, compared to today, the models in 96, we had 3-day forecasts. Now we've got 5-7-day forecasts. We were very unsure about where Edouard was going to go. Ended up moving directly north, and it got very close to Cape Cod, and then it spit to the right. And there were impacts, and there were problems, but it wasn't quite what we thought it could have been. I think Lee could be somewhat like Edouard, to where it weakens and just misses New England, but very close call. And Hurricane Edouard was not the only game in town. In 96, we had Fran follow, and then Gustav, and that African wave train like we've had, and Fran ended up continuing and slamming into Cape Fear, North Carolina, as a major hurricane, a Category 3, and it caused a lot of damage. Fran was a bad one. And you want to know the truth? Unless I'm mistaken, the last time a major hurricane of Category 3 intensity or higher hit the state of North Carolina was 1996. So for all you climate change people, oh, it's so bad, it's never been this bad. Yeah, it's been, since 96. We didn't even have Beanie Babies the last time a major hurricane hit North Carolina. So, this stuff happens, but it doesn't always happen as frequently as people think. So, hopefully, what may come off Africa does not become Hurricane Fran, but 96 was a heck of a year. And, I don't know, kind of get the idea that this one's kind of reminded me of 96 a little bit. Margot is out there. Now, Margot will not be like Hurricane Fran. Margot should continue north, but it looks like it's going to be a solid Category 1 hurricane throughout the week. And right now it's at 24.6 north, 39.9 west, 65 mile an hour winds, moving north at 8. And looking at the satellite imagery, Margot looks much better than it ever has. There's the center trying to bubble up an eye feature there, so we'll likely see very good outflow there. Margot will probably become a hurricane. It'll become a Category 1. I don't think it'll get any stronger. The forecast doesn't have it getting beyond 80, 90 miles an hour, but nevertheless, we're going to watch it very carefully because it'll be another hurricane. Here's a beautiful satellite imagery of our three systems, an infrared image. There's Hurricane Lee on the left. Here's Tropical Storm Margot. And then this wave is the invest area we've been watching, and then another wave that just left. It looks like they're going to kind of merge here, and whatever we get will probably form there where I put that X. And it looks like it'll continue probably further south than Lee. And that's why we have to watch it very, very carefully. Here are some of the ensemble models. The Europeans, they take a system in that direction by the end of the run, which is somewhere around September 20th or so. Now, it's always possible that if a system takes a track like that, it will do what Lee did and eventually turn on out. That is possible. But it is also possible that it could move much further south and impact the Caribbean, maybe the Bahamas, maybe the eastern seaboard. So again, we just don't know, but that's the European ensembles. These are the GFS, and they're even a little bit more wonky than that. Some have it moving north, others west. One model here, look at this, it takes it all the way through the U.S. Virgin Islands, north of Puerto Rico, and taking aim at the areas there near the Bahamas as a strong hurricane. And that circle I drew is much closer there than where Lee became. So this one could get further west than Lee, and we're going to watch it very, very carefully. Right now, if we do get another name, Nigel is the next name on the list, and some of the models are saying this could become Nigel and take a track much further south than Lee, so we'll see. But right now, the focus is Hurricane Lee, Tropical Storm Margot, watching Africa. We'll keep tabs on everything. I'm Mike Naso with this Sunday night update. I'll talk to you next time.